Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is becoming my favorite thing to do with Dynasty Leagues is go through and look at real Dynasty teams, break them down, figure out some moves that we should be trying to make. But before we get into them, make sure you're going down there, dropping a like on this live stream, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, and of course, if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football and want to get your team on one of these live streams, you can do so on flockfantasy.com. When you sign up to Flock Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, you're going to get 30% off any subscription. And on top of that, yours truly will go through and break down your Dynasty Fantasy Football team for you. But that should be about it. Let's go ahead and let's dive into this. Starting off with our first team from Flying Frenchman. My man, thank you so much for being a member of the Flock for so damn long now, saying, "Hey Mason, longtime fan, watching you since I started a Dynasty League. I'm in a 1 quarterback, 6-point passing touchdown league. I was wondering what I should move to improve. I'm open to trading assets to improve later on. Should I start trading Eckler for future picks? I try to keep a youngish core for the future. Posted the team league settings below and replied to the message." Okay, so let's go ahead and let's first look at the actual scoring that we have here. I mean, that's not going to matter at all, but if we're looking at, okay, yeah, there's nothing that's too important here with the scoring that you did post. 6-point passing touchdown league, a full PPR, nothing that's too important for us to point out. But let's go ahead and let's first pull up this starting lineup where we are going to have Tua at quarterback. And then going down to the bench, I mean, we currently are sitting with Jared Goff, but in reality, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you're in a spot where it's a 1 quarterback format, even in a 6-point passing touchdown league, we're really just looking at that first guy. Maybe you can play Goff based off matchup, but majority of the time, Tua is going to be in the starting lineup. And I actually prefer Tua in a 6-point passing touchdown league in comparison to maybe a 4-point passing touchdown format, because in a 6-point passing touchdown league, if Tua manages to have a ton of passing volume this next year, you may be in a spot where you can actually get by and catch up to those quarterbacks that can run the football. Because obviously in a 4-point passing touchdown format, it is very difficult for you to play catch up at the quarterback position if your quarterback's not going to be running the ball. But no, I mean, in a 6-point touchdown league, if Tua goes out there and is top 3 in the NFL in passing touchdowns, he has a real chance to actually be a difference-making player in fantasy. And I mean, I like Tua as well. I mean, if we're looking at Tua, this is a quarterback that at the end of the day led the NFL in adjusted yards per pass attempt this past season. Now, yes, you can maybe say, "Oh, well, Mason, you know what, man? I mean, it was just the coach." Oh, you know what, Mason? You know what, man? It was just the wide receiver core. Well, that's your argument. I got news for you. You have both the same coach as well as the same wide receivers still in Miami. So I'm completely fine building around Tua here, both in the short and long term. Now, going over to running back, currently sitting with Austin Eckler, obviously top 3 running back this upcoming season. Then Breece Hall. Breece Hall, top 3 dynasty running back that we're looking at. Now, Dameon Pierce as well, a big-time winner of the NFL draft. Looks like Dameon Pierce is someone that we can be confident as a running back to this next season. We have some depth down there with Roschon Johnson. In reality, I mean, at this position, we have a nice combination of a lot of things. We have the short-term production, where we can contend right away, right? And maybe we're not super confident on what Austin Eckler is going to be once we get to 2024. But, I mean, at the end of the day, if he's scoring enough points for us this season and he helps us win this year, that's worth his spot on our roster, of course. And then with Breece Hall, not only do we have the short-term production, but we also have the long-term value. Unlike Austin Eckler, where after this season we could possibly see his value crater, with Breece Hall, that value can maintain over a large stretch. And with Dameon Pierce, he kind of fits the same mold. We don't really know for sure if he'll be a starting running back in 2024, but definitely has the possibility. So I think with this running back room, we go into this season under the assumption that we're contending. Now, going over to wide receiver, we're currently sitting with CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Pittman in the starting lineup. And then if we're going to go down there to the bench, I mean, we have Jahan Dotson, we have Juju Smith-Schuster, we have, and I'm not saying Cortland Sutton as a quality piece, but we have Romeo Doubs. We have more than enough depth to go around. So at wide receiver, I mean, we have that long core built out of CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown, both of whom are incredibly young still. Michael Pittman should give us production over the next few seasons. Obviously, this is going to be more so a contending asset, but still you're not expecting a fall off anytime soon. So I feel very comfortable with where we're sitting at wide receiver, both in the short and long term. Going over to tight end, we have TJ Hawkinson, who's a top 3 tight end in Dynasty. I think you can make an argument for any of Kyle Pitts, TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, in whatever order that you want. He is a great piece in the short and long term. Dallas Goedert, little different. Dallas Goedert drafted in 2018, stayed a while in college, so he's actually a little older than you'd assume. But still, I think Goddard's a top 5 option for right now. Now, with this not being a tight end premium format, I think if we were to decide to go through and make any move, we're probably selling a tight end here. And I mean, it's the obvious thing to do with this not being a tight end premium format. And I think with this roster, I know you were talking about the possibility of selling Austin Eckler for future draft picks. We do have a young core, blah, blah, blah. I'm not thinking of doing that, just because I think if we look at every position top to bottom here, I think we have more than enough firepower to be competitive this next season. Now, if you wanted to put yourself in a position where you're saying, well, you know what, Mason, I'm not 100% sold on us contending this next year. I think we possibly, just possibly, want to maybe make a push and go for 2024. I think a simple step that we could make on that front would be going through and selling Dallas Goedert. We already have TJ Hawkinson. We have Hawkinson both for the short and long term. And if we put ourselves in the shoes of a rebuilding team, which this team is not, we're going into the season with the plans to contend, of course. But say, I mean, hell, what if CeeDee Lamb tears his ACL? Then Amon-Ra St. Brown has a high ankle sprain. And all of a sudden you're going, oh crap, Mason. No, I can't compete this year. We're having to play for 2024. If we put ourselves in that mindset real quick and we go, okay, well, yeah, let's push off to 2024 here, we would end up selling Austin Eckler, as you're already mentioning, but that will be a sell that we can make during the season. And we would also be looking to sell Dallas Goedert, I'd say Dameon Pierce, and then Michael Pittman, depending on the value that we could get. So if you want to just put yourself in a position where maybe we have a little more flexibility to push off to 2024 at the beginning of the season, if everything goes wrong, then maybe one of those steps we could look to make would be selling Dallas Goedert. Now, let me pull up flockfantasy.com real quick, just to give you a sense of maybe some of the wide receivers that you could be looking at a return of Goedert. Because if he's currently in a flex spot for us, what I'm probably going to be looking to do is try to just get another player that will be productive at the wide receiver position that maybe has a little bit of a longer term outlook. So let me just head over to flockfantasy.com. We're just going to look at wide receivers and tight ends, sort this out, figure out where Dallas Goedert is, and then maybe make a play from here. Okay, I believe Dallas Goedert will be past 50. Let's do this to 100. So Goedert is at 68 in our rankings. Dallas Goedert is directly behind guys like George Pickens, Zay Flowers, Brandon Ayuk, Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson. Now that is for the rankings of the site. If you filter down by my rankings, I will be significantly higher on Dallas Goedert. I mean, I really like Goedert. I love the player, love the profile. I personally have Dallas Goedert at 53. So if you were going to go through and try to sell Dallas Goedert based off of my values for the reasons that we are already mentioning on this, live stream, if we are looking at wide receivers in the range of Dallas Goedert, we are looking at Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Devontae Adams, Christian Watson. If we could sell Goedert for maybe one of those rookie wide receivers like Quentin Johnston or Jordan Addison, I think that could potentially make a lot of sense, in that with those wide receivers, they have a shot to put up a similar points per game mark this next season. But if we decided that we wanted to go through and hit the reset button and maybe play for the long term, then at that point, obviously we wouldn't have to try to sell Dallas Goedert during the season. We would already be one step closer to go down that route. But overall, really like the team, my friend. I don't think plan A is to rebuild. I think plan A is to contend. And if you were wanting to put yourself in a position where it'd be easier to go through with plan B if everything goes wrong, the sell in my mind today wouldn't be Austin Eckler. That would be a player that we look to sell during the year. The sell today in my mind with this roster in particular would be Dallas Goedert. But again, thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. Really hope that you were able to get something from this. Really hope that we were able to help you out in some way. And as always, if there's anything that I can do for you, please reach out to me. Let me know, especially if there's any way that I can improve flockfantasy.com. And also, quick side note, my man, be on the lookout. This week, we are going to be making announcements on how to claim free Underdog Fantasy credit, with you being a mother flocker on flockfantasy.com. And also, I'm going to be getting you exclusive merch as well. So just be on the lookout. All you're going to have to do is essentially, I'm assuming you already use promo code FLOCK on Underdog. I know for a damn fact, obviously did it on flockfantasy.com, but you'll just have to look for the announcement and then essentially just give me your address, give me the email that you signed up for flockfantasy.com with, give me the email that you signed up for Underdog with, and then I'll be happy to go through and send that stuff to you, my friend. But let's go over to our next team. This one coming out from Eck. Thank you so much, my man, for being with us for so damn long now, saying, hey, Mason, this is my third offseason being a listener, first time sub, and now a certified mother flocker. Thank you so much, my man. I really do appreciate it. Saying, I've been watching your YouTube videos, analyzing rosters, and I'm curious to see your thoughts on our rebuild in a 12-team league. This is my second draft since blowing apart my team. My first question is, am I correct in taking JSN over Jahmyr Gibbs at 2, since I'm probably not in a win now mode? Second question is, if you would consider starting this year with Bijan and the 102 on the taxi squad with London, Burks, and George Pickens. Okay, so this is something that is super league dependent, right? Now, in the flock leagues that I run for the members of flockfantasy.com, I have it set up in a way where if a player is taxi squad eligible, you are able to put them on the taxi squad and you have no obligation to move them into the starting lineup no matter how they are producing. Now, if you were to say have Bijan Robinson on your bench and you weren't starting him when he was clearly your best option, then that would be defined as tanking, and then there would be consequences for that. However, if you have that player on your taxi squad, it doesn't matter if they're putting up 100 points per game. You are not obligated to remove them from the taxi and put them to the active roster, and you are not obligated to put them in your starting lineup. So if that is the case in your league, where you will not be obligated to start him, and you're saying this is going to be a rebuilding season for us, then yes, I would love to take Bijan Robinson, throw him on the taxi squad, then earn the 101 in the 2024 draft, bring in, I believe this is a one quarterback format, so Marvin Harrison Jr., and then go for there. Right? But nonetheless, it's going to be very dependent. That may be tanking in your league. Depends how it's defined. But you're saying Toilet Bowl decides draft order, and we have a rule where you set your opponent's lineup in the Toilet Bowl to ensure best roster decisions are made. Essentially, the game becomes trying to beat your own team. With them unavailable for opponents to use come playoff time, I'd have a great shot at the 101 again in 2024, or do you just activate the young talent and see what happens? No. I think we went through that in depth. But one other thing that I want to discuss as we go through and pull up this team is I don't necessarily think that we should just go through and say, okay, well, we're rebuilding, so we're not going to go forward and take Jahmyr Gibbs. Instead, I'm going to take Jackson Smith and Jigba. Wide receivers last longer, blah, blah, blah. I will be completely honest with you. Personally, in all of my dynasty leagues, I took Jackson Smith and Jigba over Jahmyr Gibbs. But personally, in all my dynasty leagues, I am able to start up to 6 to 7 wide receivers, depending on the format. And on top of this, I got to interview Jackson Smith and Jigba at the NFL draft, and it will forever be something that I remember, and I forever want to be rooting on our guy. So I personally made that decision. However, if I was going to recommend someone else to go through and look at either Jackson Smith and Jigba or Jahmyr Gibbs, now that I've had a long enough chance to actually sit here and really think about this, and you are looking at the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs at the end of the day is a running back that goes pick 12 overall, is running behind an elite offensive line, is a phenomenal pass catcher, I think I have to take Gibbs over Jackson Smith and Jigba. I would love for y'all to let me know this in the live chat real quick. Please help out Eck if you can. Everybody go to the chat. We have like 150 people here. Spam it. Would you rather have Jackson Smith and Jigba or Jahmyr Gibbs? Please let me know. But as we look at this team, I mean, it's not going to be too important, right, as we currently stand with what players. We have Geno Smith in there at quarterback, and I would say definitely look to sell Geno Smith on a rebuilding team if we can, but in reality, you're probably not going to be getting too much for Geno Smith, right? It's one quarterback league. Now we have Gail saying Jackson Smith and Jigba, Nicholas saying took Jahmyr Gibbs. Tobin says, I'm the same as you. My heart says Jackson Smith and Jigba. My brain says Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah. I mean, it looks like we actually have a decent amount of people coming out here and saying JSN. If you really like JSN, my friend, I think you can go ahead and pull the trigger. But anyway, we'll get to that in just one second. But going over to running back, we are looking at D'Onta Foreman, Boston Scott in the starting lineup. Now, obviously, D'Onta Foreman's not someone we could get really anything for right now. But the second that there's a Khalil Herbert injury, or the second that you actually just have D'Onta Foreman turning into the starting running back there in Chicago, we will go ahead and we will be putting him on the trade block and seeing what we can get immediately, right? Like if you get the opportunity to sell D'Onta Foreman for a future second rounder, you probably should go ahead and take it. He won't be a player that has any value in 2024. Now, going over to the bench, we have no running backs to point out. At wide receiver, we are currently really just sitting with Elijah Moore as an asset with value. And if you're a big-time Elijah Moore truther, I'm completely fine if you wanted to go ahead and if you wanted to hold on to Elijah Moore. My gut reaction is to say, if you're a believer, hold on to him. And the second that he finds success this season, then look to sell at that point. If Elijah Moore comes out and he has a month-long stretch where he's a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 alongside Deshaun Watson, and everybody is all the way back in on Elijah Moore and we can sell him for a future first, I would definitely look to do that with this team. I would also look to see if we could be in a position where if we have, say, someone else's future second and we're able to go through and package together their future second and Elijah Moore and get a future first in return, I would look to do that as well. Because obviously the goal of this team is just to accumulate as much future value as we possibly can, while at the same time trying to quote unquote sabotage our roster where we are in a position where we get Marvin Harrison Jr. with our first round pick next season, of course. Now, going to look at the rookie picks with this team, we are currently in a spot where we have so many picks, it is not even funny. And this is going to be what mainly matters with this roster, of course. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not really going to be too important, the actual players that we're looking at. But here with the rookie picks that we have for this season, we are currently sitting with the 101, 102, 109. So we are going to get to add a decent amount of top-end talent to a taxi squad that also has a lot of promise. Like currently on taxi, we have Drake London, Treylon Burks, George Pickens. So we have some guys that could definitely take step forwards in year 2 and guys that we could be excited about the production in 2024. Now, if I were to go through and make these draft picks, what I personally would look to do is I personally would look to go Bijan Robinson at 1. Then at 2, I would be looking to either take Jahmyr Gibbs, but what probably makes the most sense, honestly, is a trade back. Like if we could go to the team that has pick 3 and not really knowing what they want, if we are able to go through and package together or send out, say, just the 102 and in return get the 103 and then another asset we're really excited about, I think that would make so much sense. And now we're sitting here and trying to argue back and forth going, okay, do we want Jahmyr Gibbs? Do we want Jackson Smith and Jigba? Well, hell, if you're able to trade the 102 and get the 103 and then maybe an additional 2024 first, and maybe that's a little bit too rich, but maybe we can go like the 102 and a second rounder next season and get back in return the 103 and a 2024 first. Then at that point, I don't think anybody's going to have a strong opinion on who they want there between JSN or Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just going to be a no-brainer to get whoever falls at pick 3 and the additional future draft capital, which is what this team so desperately needs. So that's another idea of what we could be looking to do there. And one other way that we could go about that is just, of course, we're spitballing. I don't know if they have it. I would really love to see if like the owner at the 103 also had a top 5 pick as well. Like if say they have the 103 and 105 and we're able to trade from pick 2 and go back to pick 3 and then up from pick 9 to pick 5, I think that'd make a lot of sense because if we go over to the 109, you're going to be in a spot where it's very difficult to be excited about any options in particular. I mean, I think we're really just going to be looking at seeing if we could get Zach Charbonnet, Dalton Kincaid. I mean, at that point, the top 6 guys will definitely be off the board. And then if both Charbonnet and Dalton Kincaid are off, I mean, you're kind of stuck in no man's land. We're like, okay, am I supposed to just go through and take a rookie quarterback here in a 1 QB league? 201, I'd kind of say you're in the same boat there. These second and third and especially 4th and 5th round picks. I mean, especially those 4th and 5th round picks, we assume that they're nothing. Like, if I see a team with a bunch of 5th rounders, I just want to kind of say that those picks are invisible to me, if that makes sense. Like, looking at the 501, looking at the 510, that's an invisible asset because it has no value, and its probability of ever turning into anything is 0.0001%. So use those 100% as just throw-in trade sweeteners. But I think this is a team that will be set up nicely in 2024 if we're able to take Bijan, get the third best asset in a one quarterback format, have London, Burks, Pickens continue to develop, get either Gibbs or JSN, and then try to pick up some additional draft capital on top of that by moving back from pick 2 to pick 3. Take your favorite guy at the 109, or maybe if we can try to move from the 109 to a 2024 early first rounder, I think that would be exciting as well. I think this team has a lot of upside in the long term, but the big thing is I really just want to make sure that we are losing this next season. That way we're able to go through and earn the 101 in 2024, and we're able to bring in Marvin Harrison Jr. to a team that already has Bijan Robinson and just dominate from there. But again, thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. Really hope that we were able to help you out in some way. Really hope you're able to get something from it. And if there's anything I can ever do for you, please do not hesitate to let me know. And I know we said this at the very top of this, but just in case you didn't hear, we are going to have some big time announcements later this week on flockfantasy.com. I'll send it in the Discord to make sure that you see it, my friend. But we are going to get you exclusive merch. And on top of that, I'm going to get you some additional Underdog credit in your account. So assuming you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog, all you're going to have to do is whenever we'll send out like a Google form, you'll have to fill it out and say, okay, this is the email address I have on my Underdog fantasy account. This is the email address that I have on my Flock fantasy account. Here's the address I want my t-shirt shipped to. And then I'll go through and I'll take care of all that, my friend. But thank you so much again for being a member of the flock. But let's go over to our next team coming out from Cam. Thank you. Says 10-team super flex, 6-point passing touchdown, half PPR, full PPR, 4 tight ends, going all in this year. Would love your thoughts. Thanks. One other team in the league is more stacked than me. Need advice on what else to do to push all the chips in. Still have 2 roster spots to cut, so it wouldn't let me make the best lineup. Update, we traded Love, Lance, Kincaid, and a second for Justin Fields and Jameson Williams. Okay. I haven't let this digest to try to figure out what was the better side of the deal, because whenever I see someone trade Trey Lance for Justin Fields, there's nothing more painful in my entire life. It is the most painful thing I could ever view, my friend. But nonetheless, if we're trying to break down this deal, I mean, I'd rather have Jameson Williams over Dalton Kincaid, and I'm not even a big Jameson Williams guy. And if we're looking at Justin Fields versus Love, Lance in a second, well, you know, I am the biggest Trey Lance fanboy you're going to find. While you know I was drafting Trey Lance over Justin Fields as rookies, and I was extremely confident to be doing that. At the end of the day, the Justin Fields side wins, especially if we were going to have to go through and cut some options because we were running low on roster spots, going through and just trading multiple pieces to get the best asset in return. Probably a smart move. Now, going into this roster, we currently are looking at Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. Then going over to what we have down there on the bench, while we had Jordan Love, Trey Lance, we're getting Justin Fields. And a big thing in a 10-team Superflex format in comparison to a 12-teamer is in a 10-team Superflex league, everybody's always going to be able to find quarterback production. Like, you're going to be able to go through, you're going to be able to trade for Derek Carr for literally just pennies if you really need a quarterback 3. So, I mean, I would rather focus in on those quarterbacks that we believe have an elite level ceiling rather than the guys that maybe are guaranteed starters for the next 5 seasons. So for that reason, I mean, we can safely say, yeah, Justin Fields has a relatively high ceiling, and those depth quarterbacks aren't going to matter as much. So this quarterback room of Allen, Lawrence, Fields is perfect for a 10-team league. Now, going over to running back, we're currently sitting with Breece Hall, Travis Etienne in the starting lineup. Going down to the bench, we have Jahmyr Gibbs and Khalil Herbert as well. So we're in a really good spot. I mean, I would make an argument that Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, and Jahmyr Gibbs are all arguably top 5 running backs in Dynasty. If they're not all top 5 running backs in Dynasty, they're definitely all top 6 running backs in Dynasty. So you are going to be in a position where you have, I mean, a ton of a long-term value and short-term production really excited to see that, my friend. I mean, there's not too much to discuss, right? We're excited about contending with these players in the short term. We're excited about contending with these players in the long term. We even have Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence stacked together. Now, going over to wide receiver, we're currently sitting with Olave London going into year 2. Our depth guys include Ayuk, Ridley, Deontay, and then going down to the bench, I mean, we have Tyreek Hill, of course, who's going to go in the starting lineup whenever we make that adjustment. And then, I mean, not too much. We have Zay Flowers, okay? This is a team that has so much depth at wide receiver where if you were saying, Mason, you know what, I feel a little bit outgunned currently. Like, I think we need to go through, and I think that we need to try to get an upgrade in the starting lineup if we can to compete with the other juggernaut in the league. What my initial thing would be is to try to make a 2-for-1 deal where generally this is not what I'm trying to do at wide receiver. Usually at wide receiver, I'm trying to sell the guy that's perceived to be like a tier 2, tier 3 option. I'm trying to go through and maybe sell, I don't know. I don't want to say Jalen Waddle. Let's just say Jalen Waddle, for instance, even though y'all know I love my guy, Jalen Waddle. And in return, I want to be going down a tier and trying to pick up an additional extra first rounder. But with this team in particular, and whenever we have the embarrassment of riches where there are very few moves that we can make that would actually improve our overall dynasty team, I think that this is one of those rare instances where we are able to take 2 wide receivers, package them together to get the better guy in return. Like if we would be able to maybe trade Brandon Ayuk and then Zay Flowers and go out there and get someone like Jalen Waddle or just someone in that range in general, I think that would make a lot of sense given the fact that this is a 10-team league where we have a lot of depth, right? I mean, players that we currently have on the bench include Evan Ingram, Zay Flowers, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill will go to the starting lineup. Deontay Johnson will go down the bench. Tomato. Jahmyr Gibbs, Khalil Herbert, and Justin Fields after we made that trade. I mean, we are sitting with so much freaking depth that I think that's a move that we could look to make. I know we kind of already did a similar move at the quarterback position, right? To go and trade Love and Lance and in return get Justin Fields. But hell, we were also able to add in Jameson Williams to this team. So Jameson Williams is just one more depth wide receiver that we have. And honestly, if you were looking to contend this year, I think that maybe instead the move would be to approach a team that has a contending asset, right? Is sitting out there with Stephon Diggs. Obviously, we're looking for someone that's going to play for 2024 and then try to go through and in return for Stephon Diggs, give them 2 assets that may be ascending in dynasty value. Maybe go through and give them the combo of both Zay Flowers as well as Jameson Williams on that front. Hopefully that would be a deal that we can find at least someone with that veteran that will help us win this year. Maybe it's Devontae Adams. Maybe it's Stephon Diggs. We already have Tyreek Hill, but someone that's in that mold, right? And going over to tight end, we're currently sitting with Pat Freiermuth. Going down to the bench, we have Evan Ingram as well. In my mind, I mean, Evan Ingram is like the perfect guy to be going after. And you already know, I mean, we recently made a video hyping up Pat Freiermuth going to go get him, go get him, go get him. I mean, just in case you didn't see it, I went through and I filtered out what we had with Pat Freiermuth in year 1 and year 2. I think the marks that we made were 2.3 receptions per game and then like 4.6 receptions per game as a second-year player. So that's rookie and second year. And the only guys that were the same as Pat Freiermuth were like Gronk, George Kittle, Aaron Hernandez, Jimmy Graham, Jordan Reed, and like Jeremy Shockey. Like the amount of tight ends that were just straight elite fantasy assets on that list were ridiculous. I think people underestimate what you had from Pat Freiermuth in year 1 and year 2. So, I mean, personally, I'm really excited to go through and try to grab him, my friend. I think you would be in a great spot to do so. I mean, and then also, if we're looking at Evan Ingram, in my mind, just in general, like going back to what we were talking about with Freiermuth, where I'm not really wanting to bet in on rookie tight ends. I see we already traded away Dalton Kincaid, which would definitely be something that I wanted to do. I'm not really into buying into year 2 tight ends. I'm ready to go through, and instead, I'm ready to just go all in on getting discount veterans that we've already seen the production. I think historically speaking, that's been the move. But I think that's all we have for this team. There's not too much to say just because you were so strong as is. Love the deal that we made trading away Love and Lance for Justin Fields. I don't love it. I mean, I think it's a good move. It hurts my heart, of course, but sometimes it has to be done. And then also, I think we can maybe just look for a similar type of trade where we're trying to trade away 2 depth wide receivers to get that upgrade in the starting lineup. But thank you so much, my man. Really, really do appreciate you. And as always, if there's anything that I can do for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. I'd be super happy to help you out in any way that I can. But we have Sarab out here in the chat says, just join the flock. Let's go. Hell yes, my man. Happy to have you. Thank you so much. Marker Word out here in the chat as well. Happy to see you, my man. Now let's go over to our next team. This one coming out from J. Peachy says, first-time listener and subscriber. Thank you, my man. A first-time listener, we're already getting to go through your Dynasty team. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts about the final moves I can make to try to win this season. It's a 14-team PPR, 1 quarterback, start 9, no premium scoring. Notable bench players are Dak, Bateman, Elijah Moore, Wandale, Kmet. We have 2 2024 first and an early 2025 first to play with and willing to trade to compete this season. Okay. So let me first talk from a macro perspective on what I'm trying to do when we have these future first on a contending team. I understand that the initial gut reaction for most Dynasty owners, right, is, okay, I'm a contender. I'm sitting here with these 2024 picks. Let me go ahead and let me try to sell them. And in return, let's get someone that will help us win this season. So the issue that I found a lot of times with Dynasty owners with that mindset is the timeline that they are going through and looking to make that move. I mean, I used to be the guy that I would sit there, especially in college, and even in high school. I mean, I would be in lecture, just not on my phone, but on my laptop, just on MFL, making Dynasty trades each and every day. Like, I would send out 20 Dynasty trades a day minimum across all my leagues because I just wanted to be doing something. I wanted to look at my teams, and I thought that we needed to make a decision on where we were going and do it that day. Where as I've gotten older and as I've played in Dynasty we're almost going in on year 10 now, a big change in philosophy that I've had, especially if we're looking to sell 2024 first, is patience. I think that those first round picks, while they're not providing you points in your lineup today, will be almost the most valuable when we're in the season, right? And I know that maybe sounds counterintuitive because right now everybody's thinking long-term. During the season, everybody's thinking about going through and getting fantasy points in their lineup that second. But when we can sell those 2024 picks during the season, we are getting a couple different things. One, we are getting significantly more information on how our team actually is. While we think a lot of times that we are strong contenders going into the year, 2 to 3 major injuries will quickly change that. And if we've already traded away our future first, we can put ourselves in a compromising position. From there, we don't have much flexibility. 2, as it stands today, when we pull up this starting lineup, right, we can say, okay, yeah, we think we know what we're going to need during this season. We think we know, okay, yeah, we're going to need a running back. Let's go through and let's trade for a running back right now. Where in reality, we don't know that. What happens if A.J. Brown goes down as well as T. Higgins? But we are just fine at running back. Dobbins breaks out this season. Whenever we wait to trade those 2024 first in the year, we are going to be allowing ourselves to have that additional data point of what we should be trading them for. On top of this, we are going to have teams during the season that realize, crap, I started out 0-4. Crap, I started out 1-5. I have no shot to contend this year. What the hell am I doing with Saquon Barkley on my roster? Let me go through and trade Saquon Barkley for a 2024 first. It happens each and every year. And when you go through and when you give that 2024 first for Saquon Barkley from the struggling team during the season, we are going to know, 1, is Saquon Barkley healthy? 2, is Saquon Barkley producing? And 3, do I need Saquon Barkley on this roster? So while I look at this team today, we're going to try to plan out for what we're going to be doing at the beginning portion of the season. In reality, those first round picks are going to maintain their value until then, and there's no reason why we need to go through and look to sell them today. That's a mistake that I think we've made in years past. I'm just trying to get away from. But let's go into this starting lineup. We have Lamar Jackson, a quarterback, obviously elite quarterback option, right? I mean, there's not too much that we have to discuss there with Lamar Jackson. Going over to running back, we're going to be sitting with Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, J.K. Dobbins in the starting lineup as well. So one thing that we have to do as a collective, as we look at this team, is kind of change our mindset, right? This is going to be a 14-team league. If you're comparing a 14-team league to a 10-team league, the bar is just significantly lower for you to be a strong contender. Like, instead of asking, is this running back a top 10 guy for him to be a running back 1? Is this guy a top 20 guy for him to be a running back 2? Is this guy a top 14 guy to be a running back 1? Is this guy a top 28 guy to be a running back 2? And if we're looking at this, hell, Jonathan Taylor or Josh Jacobs are both top 14 guys. We have, at minimum, 2 running back 1s on this team. We have J.K. Dobbins as well, who's a top 28 guy. So we have 2 running back 1s and a running back 2 at minimum. Now, going over to wide receiver, we're going to be sitting with A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Treylon Burks, Chris Godwin. So, I mean, if we go through and do that same test, A.J. Brown, clearly a top 14 guy, wide receiver 1. T. Higgins, in my mind, clearly a top 14 guy, wide receiver 2. Chris Godwin, clearly a top 28 guy. I'm sorry. T. Higgins, wide receiver 1 as well. Chris Godwin, top 28 guy, wide receiver 2. And then Treylon Burks, probably, I mean, what? They would need to be a top 42 guy to be a wide receiver 3 on this team. Minimum top 42 guy, possibly top 28 guy. So we possibly have 2 wide receiver 1s as well as 2 wide receiver 2s on this roster. Pat Frymuth, definitely a top 14 tight end. So we have a tight end 1 there as well. So across the board, this is a team that is ready to contend and more than enough productive right now to actually be a contender this next season. It's not like we're sitting here and we are looking at maybe Jamal Williams in our starting lineup, right? It's not like we have some massive glaring hole that we need to go through and try to cover up to compete right away. And going over to those bench options that you were saying that we have, I mean, we have Bateman, we have Elijah Moore, we have Wan'Dale Robinson, so we have more than enough depth. Keep in mind, the depth naturally from every team in a 14-team format is going to be a little bit worse than what we would assume in a 10-teamer, in a 12-teamer. And one other thing that I want to take note of, with this being a 14-team league, where we are starting 9 guys, and it's a 1-quarterback format, it's a pretty damn deep league in general. Like, if we're going to go ahead, if we're going to look at this, so we're starting 8 non-QBs in a 14-team format. That is 112 for a total running back, wide receiver, tight ends starting across the entire league. If you're comparing that to like a 10-team format, and a 10-team league to get to 112 guys, if it's a 1-quarterback format, you need to start 11 guys outside of the quarterback position. So in a 1-quarterback format in a 10-team league, this would be equivalent to a start 12. If it was a super flex format in a 10-team league, this would be equivalent to a start 13. So depth is going to be significantly more important. And that is one more reason that I would rather hold on to those extra first-round picks that you were talking about. I would rather be in a position where, hell, we know during the season that we can go through and we can sell a 2024 first and go and get a starter that will be able to help us when we get to the bye weeks. And whenever we go through and whenever we sell that 2024 first, we're going to be able to target that guy that is both healthy and producing. From a team that obviously is struggling in a 14-team format, there will definitely be teams that are struggling that thought that they were going to be competitive. In terms of rookie picks that we have right now, we have the 306, we have the 313, we have the 501, regardless of if this is a 10, 12, 14-team format, regardless of if this is a 1-quarterback super flex, these picks are nothing. They're not going to add anything to us. If anything, I'd love to take these, like if we can trade away both 3rd-round picks and the 5th, and get a 2024 second in return, I would personally like that, because if we're going to get that 2024 second, then that's just another piece that we just have like in the savings bank. I mean, in the savings account, right, for the season. That way, whenever we need to go through and cash in and buy a veteran producing asset, we have another piece that we can look to move. But I think that's all we have for you, my friend. I know that that wasn't as helpful as me saying, okay, yeah, let's go through and let's trade a 2024 first today, and let's go out there and let's go get Stephon Diggs to help us compete. In reality, of course, if we find a price tag that we can't pass up on, we go and make the move. But, I mean, I think you already know that. You've already been able to build a phenomenal team here. I wanted to more so dive into the timeline of whenever we're looking to go through and make those trades generally. But thank you again so much for being a member of the flock, my friend. And as always, if there's anything that I can do for you, do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. And of course, I mean, be on the lookout later this week. I am going to be sending out some exclusive merch. It'll be for free. I'm assuming you've already used promo code FLOCK on Underdog. I know for a damn fact you did on flockfantasy.com, but essentially all you have to do is give me your Underdog email address, your Flock Fantasy email address, and then give me the address you want a shirt shipped to, and then also your size. And then I'll go ahead and get that to you, my friend. I'll send that information out in the Discord and have everybody fill it out from there, but thank you. Now going over to our next team, this one coming out from IBrainwash your face. Hopefully this isn't iBrian and I'm an idiot. I'm assuming that's iBrain, but I'm an idiot. But anyway, hey Mason, this is my first league with the Flock and I'm really enjoying your approach to the game. Thank you, my man. After watching your roster reviews, I couldn't help but be curious what insights that you may have on my squad and league. It's a 10-team, 2-quarterback PPR. We drop all but 14 players a couple days prior to the draft. Because of this, it can often be difficult to get trades done before the draft. I look forward to hearing how you approach this. Love the content. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, my man. And in general, let me talk about this kind of format where you have to cut rosters significantly, right? Like if you're having to cut down to 14 players, it is going to make life extremely difficult for us in that if you were to go through and draft, say, a wide receiver in round 2 that maybe you're excited about the long-term outlook of, right? Like let's say this year you go through and you draft Josh Downs. While in a dynasty league, we can sit there and we can wait as long as we want for Josh Downs to actually have, some kind of breakout, whether that's in year 2, whether that's in year 3. However, if we have to cut down to 14 players every offseason, especially with this being a 10-team, 2-quarterback format, hell, if that player does not show us that he is productive right away as a rookie, he's almost not even worth holding. Like if you were looking at guys like Michael Mayer, for instance, let's go through this hypothetical, not necessarily Josh Downs, because I think we can all agree, right? Michael Mayer is someone that has a lot of long-term upside, and you'd be excited to get him at a discount in your rookie draft and then be able to hold him for the next few years. And then hopefully in 2024, 2025, you can go through and you can get Michael Mayer in and he's able to make a difference for you. Well, if you're in a situation where you have to cut down to 14 players next offseason and Michael Mayer goes out there and he has just a regular rookie tight end season and he doesn't do anything, good freaking luck holding on to Michael Mayer. You're probably going to have to cut him next offseason. So it will change our overall approach on how we target bench players and what type of players that we're taking in the rookie draft. But let's go into this starting lineup. Let's look at the team top to bottom. And maybe the best thing that we could look to do right now is come up with our 14 keepers, right? Because essentially it's a keeper league. It's not necessarily a full dynasty league. I would personally classify it as a keeper format where we have a lot of picks as well. But anyway, let's go through and let's classify our 14 keepers because I think that will maybe better illustrate the overall situation we're looking at with this league. Okay. So we are keeping Josh Allen. We are keeping Joe Burrow. No question about it. We are keeping Devonta Smith. We are keeping Chris Godwin. We are keeping Terry McLaurin. We are keeping David Njoku. We are keeping Hollywood Brown. No question about it. We are at 7. We already have half of our team here. We're going to keep Javonte. We're at 8. We're going to keep Rashad Bateman. We're at 9. We're going to keep Evan Ingram. We're at 10. We're going to keep James Conner. We're at 11. So we have 3 more spots. Okay. So Sky Moore is a good example of this, right? Sky Moore, maybe you're saying, okay, well, I think maybe he can do something this next year. But if we're sitting here and being faced with the decision, okay, can Sky Moore make one of these last 3 spots? He didn't do anything year 1. We probably shouldn't be taking these long-term projects at wide receiver, almost regardless. But maybe Sky Moore could sneak on here. Here's what I want y'all to do. Okay, so out of those players that we did not mention, the guys that we mentioned are Evan Ingram, Rashad Bateman, Javonte Williams, Hollywood Brown, David Njoku, Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, Devonta Smith, James Conner, Jonathan Taylor, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. It's actually 12. We have 2 names left over. Who are those 2 guys you're keeping? I think the guys that are maybe in play, Shaheed, Sky Moore, Zay Jones, Jalen Warren, and then maybe Kareem Hunt if he signs. Maybe Ezekiel Elliott if he signs. Can y'all please give me those 2 names in the live chat that you're keeping? We almost have 180 people out here. Because that's going to help us know what we're doing in rookie drafts. It's going to help us know what we're doing with potential trades. I know we were sent the message saying it's harder to make deals in this league with this setting in general, but I'd love to see some input on the chat. Mitch says he's going to keep Ezekiel Elliott and Zay Jones. So that would lead to you cutting guys like Kareem Hunt, Sky Moore, Shaheed, Jalen Warren. Sarab says keep Zay Jones and Ezekiel Elliott as well. Personally, I think that if Ezekiel Elliott were to sign by the time that we actually have to make this decision, I'd probably keep Zeke if we know what the situation looks like. I'm kind of inclined to keep Jalen Warren because I'm confident in saying that it looks like Jalen Warren is going to be a primary handcuff running back this next season. So a lot of people are saying Zeke and Zay Jones. I would probably say the combo of Sky Moore and Jalen Warren. But this is, all just to point out that this is a very difficult league format to play in if you're trying to take long-term projects. So looking at the starting lineup, we have Allen, Burrow at quarterback. We don't have a QB3, so we can definitely look to take a QB3 in this rookie draft. Running back, we have Taylor, Connor. The depth guys are going to be questionable depending on who you plan on keeping. Wide receiver, we have Smith, Godwin, McLaurin, Hollywood Brown. So definitely looks like we are a contending team this next year. I like having David Njoku there as well. So what I want to be looking at is the rookie picks that we are going to have with the actual moves that we can make today. So if we're looking at the 107, right? 107 will be in a good spot. We can either get Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison. It almost doesn't matter what they do year one. We know for a damn fact that these are guys we're building around for the long term. They will be in our top 14 next season. 109, this is where we about get to a point where we're like, okay, the cutoff is here. 109, I still think that you're maybe comfortable and you could go through and you could take Zay Flowers. What I would probably look to do in reality, with this being, in my mind, more of a keeper league rather than this being a true dynasty format, is I would probably actually look to sell the 109. A, for the fact that it's a keeper league. I don't necessarily know if you're as excited about having a depth wide receiver like Zay Flowers with this format in particular. And B, on top of this, if you're in a position where we've already sold our 2024 first, and if we're sitting with someone else's 2024 first, we are highly, highly, highly incentivized to go through and look to build to win now. Not only are we incentivized to look to build now because we traded away our own 2024 first, but on top of this, with this being more so a keeper league rather than a true dynasty, I think that's another reason why. So I'd look to sell the 109, possibly in return, get back a wide receiver that we can be excited about this year. Let me go through and let me pull up the rankings we have on flockfantasy.com and give you some wide receivers we have in a similar range of Zay Flowers, who is the 109. So, right now, Zay Flowers on flockfantasy.com. Depends if you're going to filter by my rankings or the average rankings of all experts on the site. We're going to filter by the average expert ranking because maybe this will be a little bit more predictive on what you could be selling Zay Flowers for rather than just where I personally have him ranked. So Zay Flowers, in comparison to some of the other players in his range, I would like to sell Zay Flowers for Dameon Pierce in this kind of league. I would love to sell Zay Flowers for Nick Chubb in this kind of league. I would sell Zay Flowers for Ayuk in this kind of league. Treylon Burks in this kind of league. Jahan Dotson, Austin Eckler, Michael Pittman, Deebo Samuel, Kenny Pickett. If we could go through and sell the 109 for any of those players, I think that would make a lot of sense. And it would maybe align what we were wanting to do with this roster overall. Now, going over to the 204, this is a range that in a 10-team league, we're used to saying, okay, yeah, we can go through and maybe we can go and take someone like Michael Mayer here, right? But given the fact that you have to slim down to 14 players every offseason, I am taking a running back here in the second round. I do not think the running backs in round 2 this year are any good. I'm not that big of a Miller guy. I'm obviously I like Roshan, but I don't like Devon Achane. I don't really like Tajay Spears. But the benefit that you get of taking a running back here at the 204 is we're almost immediately going to know what they are, right? We will know by the time we get to next offseason if that will be a player that we're looking to keep or if that will be a player that we're looking to sell. Whereas if we were to go through and instead say take Michael Mayer, you would just have no idea. We'd have no idea if Michael Mayer is worth being kept next offseason. So to make things a little clear for us, I think that the easy move is to go forward and look to take a running back in round 2 there of the rookie draft. But I hope we were able to help you out, my friend. Again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. And as always, if there's anything that I can do for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. Quick side note, I don't know if you got to see the live stream yesterday. We went through and we had a live stream where we were able to, and then we're going to do this every weekend. That's why I'm letting you know, my man. We are sending a link every weekend in the Discord for members of the flock to come on and hang out with us on a live stream. You can come on, ask us Dynasty questions, come on, just say hey and hang out, whatever you're wanting to do, but definitely be on the lookout for that. I think we're going to do that maybe every Saturday or Sunday. I should definitely pick an exact day in which we are. That way you can plan for it. I should pick an exact day and time for that, but we're going to do that every single weekend going forward. But we actually have someone in the chat right now, Marker, where it says he'll be there next weekend. Looking forward to it, my man. Looking forward to it. But I think that's all we have. Again, thank you all so much, everybody watching this. Really do appreciate you. Thank you for everybody who let us go through their team today on the live stream. Appreciate you all being members of the flock. And as always, if there's anything I can do for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. I really do appreciate y'all. Really hope you have a great day. And in 8 minutes, we are going to be firing up a live stream on the main fantasy football channel doing an underdog draft. So head over to Flock Fantasy. That's our main YouTube channel. Get ready for that live stream. We'll be live. I just have to go through and get a cup of water, maybe go to the bathroom, and then we'll be good to go. But thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate y'all and really hope y'all have a great day.